So Dominic Williams, the founder of Dfinity, is allegedly talking about a big moment when it comes to ICP. Now, nothing I say is financial advice, and I'll talk about the price of ICP later, but let's talk about this real quick because Dominic Williams made a post saying how a big ICP moment could be when five things come together. He first talks about the Internet Computer Cloud Engines. He also talks about more sovereign deals. And also on top of that, he refers to Caffeine AI. Basically, he talks about version 3 engine. He talks about app market open publishing and also Web 2 auto integration. And he says it's all in sight, allegedly. So I think it's pretty cool. Now, these things may sound a little bit kind of unimportant to some people, but if we consider kind of the, I think, significance of Caffeine AI, I think it's actually a really big deal because it's a self-writing apps platform that could maybe help developers use AI to help build applications. So why not? And it's not like it even really needs to be a very skilled developer to begin with anyways, because Caffeine AI by nature, kind of the design of it is like, even I could, let's say, hypothetically just type up and say, oh, make an app about my daily schedule or something like that. And then it could try to make one for me, right? I don't even need to know any sort of coding or anything like that, allegedly. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, inherently, something like that isn't going to have much traction as of right now, just because who's going to want to launch apps or something like that at a time like this when the market isn't doing the best? Usually it's kind of rare. We do see it still though, but it's not necessarily that common, or should I say as common as when the market is doing better when it comes to this space. But again, this type of stuff is geared for later on, right? It's not necessarily meant for instant gratification like that. It's more of a slow build, and again, catering towards apps being made as of right now isn't necessarily the most, cool thing, but it could be later. So I do like this kind of direction when it comes to Dfinity and also things regarding the internet computer overall. And again, people like to tell me that, oh, Dominic Williams gave up, but I disagree with that. I think he's still caring about the project. And again, we recently heard about Mission 70, right? Supposedly was a plan to cut ICP inflation and whatnot. And I actually made a video on that, my most previous video when it comes to ICP, so feel free to check that one out. But yeah, besides that point, they're doing things, right? When it comes to Dfinity, I think Dominic Williams still hasn't given up, so I don't want to give up either. However, Dominic Williams, it's not to be mistaken with Dominic Mysterio, right, from the WWE. But yeah, besides that point though, ICP as of right now, again, we saw like a pretty okay recovery, then it had a pullback, but you know what? It is what it is. We're still around 42 times lower than $100 as of right now. Personally for me, these are still ranges where I'm happy to dollar cost average, because if things are low, ICP, as long as it's like below $3, the reason why I wouldn't complain is because my intent is to dollar cost average, right? So if I'm looking to dollar cost average at a low point preferably, and it's actually presenting me with that, arguably, why would I be complaining? Like, it just makes no sense why I would complain about a situation where I wanted to kind of see happen to begin with. This is my mindset. But yeah, when it comes to ICP as well, people like to tell me that, oh, when it comes to this, people forgot about it. Well, here's the thing. The market cap of ICP, despite the really big pullback, right, it's still like over $1 billion. So it's not like it's a project that's just completely forgotten about like that. Like, it's still top 50 in the world as we speak. Like, this is not a project that's just fallen off into irrelevance. No, that doesn't seem to be the case for me. And for a lot of people out there, they like to say, oh, this project that's ranked like 600th or whatever is going to make it. Well, if they're going to make it, why can't this one? This one's ranked way higher, has a lot of holders. The team is still, doing things when it comes to Dfinity. Also on top of that, there's still some things going on fundamentally, right, when it comes to it. So if a project that's ranked like 600th, for instance, if that's going to make it with way less fundamentally amazing things, with way less things going on, with a team, sometimes being 50-50, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, if they could some reason, make it, why can't this? That's the way to take a look at it. I still see some people out there being so kind of enthusiastic over Luna Classic. Again, we're talking about Luna Classic, right? If that could maybe have a future, I mean, really, what's the good use case about that right now? You know what I mean? Like, it's just being treated like a meme, arguably, as of right now. But the thing is, a lot of memes out there don't even have like the baggage historically that we see with something like Luna Classic. So again, if something like Luna Classic, people are still enthusiastic about it, suddenly this isn't going to be like anything moving forward. Yeah, I just have a hard time believing that, but that's just kind of my mindset, right? I'm not telling anyone to do anything. However, also on top of that, if we take a look at, let's say, the internet computer, people like to tell me, oh, it's not focused on a good narrative. Well, what's a good narrative, arguably? I think it's a decentralized AI, right? Because if we think about a lot of other projects out there, sure, they're focused on AI, but if we think about decentralized AI, it just brings kind of a new vibe, in my opinion. And the internet computer, supposedly, it does have an aspect of decentralized AI, so I do like that. Also, let's not forget, Dfinity is really pushing this narrative of things running fully on chain, which, by the way, a lot of other projects simply can't do because that requires a lot of computational demand. So arguably right there, the internet computer, I think, is sometimes a little bit more equipped, right, to handle something like that. But here's the thing. When it comes to things running fully on chain, people like to tell me, but that's not a narrative. Sure, it may not be a big narrative right now, but what happens later? Like, for instance, before 2021, was Dogecoin and Shiba Inu really a big narrative? I mean, a lot of people thought it was just kind of like a joke, right? Then we saw what happened in 2021. Then suddenly we saw a lot more memes kind of appear. That's the thing. Sometimes things randomly, for whatever reason, become a narrative during an altcoin season. Now, will I be able to know what could be a narrative if, let's say, we do see an altcoin season during this cycle? No, I'll never be able to know that. I mean, I don't have a magic crystal ball to know this. There's no way. But at the same time, what happens if projects that were kind of having an aspect of trying to be fully on chain, what happens if those archetypes of projects basically started having a lot of attention? What happens if that suddenly becomes a narrative? Guess who's waiting there, quite essentially, figuratively speaking, right, the whole time? Hypothetically. Maybe it's something like the internet computer, right? Because it was just waiting there. It was waiting for the wave, if it ever were to come. It was not going to be chasing it if it ever came. That's the way you take a look at it. So I do like that. I'm more about preparing for something as opposed to chasing later on, because I feel like preparation, it's key, at least personally for me. That's why when I believe in a project, I don't wait for certain confirmations, right? What I personally do is that if I believe in a project, I just dollar cost average once a month, that's it. Because I'll never be able to know when the market could recover. There's no way, right? Also on the flip side though, I'll never be able to know when it would go down, but by me dollar cost averaging once a month, even if I dollar cost average sometimes at a low point or at a high point, sometimes it kind of balances it out because I'm doing it once a month over a period of time, right? In which case I've been dollar cost averaging into ICP for around 3 years at this point. So there's been some low moments, some high moments, but then it kind of evens it out over the long run. As opposed to me trying to find the perfect time, I'll never be able to do that. And if I, let's say for whatever reason, hypothetically went all in at like $5 or whatever when it comes to ICP, then suddenly now it's below $3, then I can't dollar cost average anymore in this make-believe scenario. What happens is suddenly becomes less fun, becomes a little bit demotivating, and also on top of that, there's just like no longevity in that, right? Now granted, I could just keep holding, right? If I don't need to exit, I could do that too, but it's a little bit more fun if I could still just even dollar cost average, consistently once a month. And it's kind of like a pace that hypothetically I could maintain, right? I don't have to be fixated on a certain amount as long as it's, consistently just doing it once a month. That's all I care about. Like, it's not, oh, my friend's doing this much a month, I gotta match that. No, it's nothing like that. It's just literally what I can put for the projects that I'm a fan of once a month. That's it. Like, it doesn't have to be such a outlandish, massive amount. It depends on the capabilities, right? That's sometimes the way I take a look at it personally. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I just want to stay consistent with the projects that I believe in. It's like the way I take a look at it, instead of me spending on some random nonsense that I don't need, sometimes I'd rather personally just dollar cost average. But that's just kind of my mindset, right? I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Oh, when it comes to ICP, I did like what I saw recently when it comes to Dominic Williams, again, the founder of Dfinity, in terms of what he recently said regarding ICP. So I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, though, still staying patient. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. So I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you all have a very nice day. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll see you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.